Carnival City entertainment complex on the outskirts of Brakpan invites you to come and play. The off-road fraternity accepted the offer, and round 5 of the Absa Off-Road Championship also brought a new sponsor to the sport in the 4x4 Mega World Group. The Absa Off-Road Championship is a jewel in the South African motorsport crown, with the 4x4 Mega World 400 bringing to the East Rand all the drama, excitement and action of national championship off-road racing.
Race headquarters and the pit area were located at the Carnival City complex. And for crews, the weekend's first task was to go through the usual documentation process. To the casual observer, documentation resembles organized chaos, but for race organizers and competitors, it is an important process run strictly in accordance with the rules and regulations that apply to off-road racing.
Motorsport is globally big business and provides motor manufacturers and allied industries with a giant showroom. Motor racing is at the cutting edge of engineering development, and technology developed for race cars inevitably finds its way into vehicles on showroom floors. There's an old adage that what wins on Saturday sells on Monday, and motor racing attracts sponsorship from across a huge spectrum of commercial and industrial activity. Race vehicles are moving billboards, and the 4x4 Mega World Group sees event sponsorship as part of a long-term marketing plan for the range of products it imports and manufactures.
We're the importer and distributor for quite a lot of 4x4 products in Africa actually. It's the ALB products, Old Man Emu, IPF, T-Max, and then we own a sister company called African Outback, which manufactures roof racks, which we export worldwide. It's quite exciting. But you know, it's in all my staff's blood. So we all, you can see the staff have done a lot to get us all out here. And then the most exciting, we're bringing out the new car as well, which the guys only finished at 10 o'clock last night, so it's quite exciting.
Going into the 4x4 Mega World 400, only 23 points separated the top 7 crews in the production vehicle overall championship and in the Premier SP class. Championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst were just 13 points ahead of their closest rival.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, we're leading the championship, and we'll try to stay here. That's our main aim. Try to finish, and I'm sure if we will finish well. I'm sure.
After a roll on the Sun City 400, the Visser Badenhorst Toyota Hilux had been restored to virtually full health.
Yeah, I must say it wasn't actually. It was just a little bit. Just cosmetics, not much, but. I say John and them, they fixed the bucket very nicely, and yeah, bucket looks good, yeah, and it feels good. We went out for testing on Tuesday, and bucket feels very well.
Despite some patchy form and without a win this season, the Team Castrol Toyota crew of reigning champion Duncan Voss and Rob Howie were lying second in the overall championship.
Despite our season not being so great up until now, we're only 13 points behind the leader. So, you get a lot of points for a win, and so it's, there's still like 10 guys in it, and we're right there. So we've tested the cars, and we're happy. We think we've made some progress, so I think we're capable of winning the race.
Rookie driver Lance Woolridge is a rising star, and with youthful confidence wasn't at all worried about the pressure that went along with leading Class E in the Team Ford Ranger.
Not really. We've had the comfortable pass. The last race was a really good race, and just not really pressure, just to keep going and just keep the consistency. It's more like it than actual pressure to do well. We analyze it bit by bit and change our tactics when we have to, but we get the car to the finish, and then that gives us the good result.
The production vehicle championship leaderboard going into the 4x4 Mega World 400 reflected the competitive nature of the Absa Off-Road Championship. Only 36 points separated the first 10 teams at the halfway mark.
There was one last formality to be completed before the start of the Donaldson Prologue to determine start positions for the next day's race. The top 5 seeded drivers draw for start positions, with Gary Berthold delegating the job to his young son. Crews are always anxious to avoid the Pathfinder number 1 slot, with Henny Terstegen making sure he and Hannes Grobler started second.
Number 2. Well done. They're getting a breakfast, they're getting lunch.
This time around, the dreaded number 1 slot went to championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst.
The 60-kilometer Donaldson Prologue was run over a section of the route to be used in the race and would provide crews with a taste of what was to come. On a compact event like the 4x4 Mega World 400, a good start position is important, and enthusiasts could look forward to some hectic racing in a region littered with mine dumps.
Diesel-electric locomotives produce huge amounts of horsepower, but the ride is nowhere near as exciting as belting through a variety of terrain in an off-road vehicle. Current South African Drivers' Champion Duncan Force and Rob Howie got the result they wanted, with the Team Castrol Toyota Hilux pair setting the fastest time on the Donaldson Prologue. Like many of the top drivers active today, multiple South African champion Duncan Force is a versatile performer. He is a former SA single-seater champion and also raced touring cars and production cars before switching to off-road. In a great result for the Castrol Toyota team, Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were second fastest, with Taylor another versatile performer. He won his first SA championship at the age of 16 and has also raced touring cars and production cars. Versatility is also a Houghton forte, and he has won national titles in off-road and in rallying.
The Toyota crew were closing in on Gary Boutelt and Andre Vermeulen, with Houghton activating the aptly named Screamer device that warns crews of fast-approaching vehicles. It was a deceptive section of the route and almost caught out Taylor and Houghton. Chasing after the Toyota crew were Thomas Rundle and former SA champion Johan Moore in the Bowden's Tyres Service Nissan Navara. The third fastest timer on the prologue represented another good performance from the pair following their podium finish at the Sun City 400. Behind the Nissan Championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Baardhorst were struggling to find some sort of rhythm. With the RFS Toyota Hilux sporting new livery, the pair were a rather disappointing fourth.
Reliability is a watchword where Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson are concerned. The Regent Racing Nissan Navara crew were the only production vehicle team to arrive at Carnival City with a 100% finish record this season. Whitehouse went into the weekend with 28 consecutive finishes behind his name, with Carlson not having to walk home in 24 starts. Fifth place on the prologue was an indication that there's also nothing wrong with their pace.
Like championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Baardhorst, the father and son pairing of Willem and Dana Vos were coming off a performance that saw them join the Roly-Poly Club at the Sun City 400. The pair were showing no ill effects though from what was a big accident, and 6 on the prologue was a more than useful performance.
Inconsistency has been a problem for George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota Hilux, but the pair brought the vehicle home in 7th place. One or two little problems with the roadbook cost the team a little time, and the Toyota came home just 12 seconds ahead of former South African champions Hannes Grobler and Henny ter Steege in the RFS BMW, which was carrying additional 4x4 Mega World backing on this event. After 33 years of driving Nissan products, Grobler has this year been behind the wheel of a Toyota Hilux and now the diesel BMW. The BMW was having only its third outing, with the car still in the development stage, with Grobler impressed with the potential of the diesel-powered X3. Behind Grobler and ter Steege, there was another encouraging performance from Bloemfontein pair Lou de Bruin and Rian Greiling in the Rubicon Ford Ranger. While de Bruin and Greiling were going their merry way, there were problems for Atlas Copco Toyota crew Gary Berthold and Andre Vermeulen, who were firmly stuck in a mud patch.
Yeah, I think maybe the front diff had a problem, and we weren't really sure where we were going at the bottom there. So as we came out, we got stuck in the mud, and because there's no front drive, we just sat fuss in the mud, unfortunately. So a bit of a tough prologue. We've got to go back and fix it and try and get going tomorrow morning.
Down in Class D, there was an early boost for Dion Venter and Ian Palmer, with the new 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux setting the pace. Right behind Venter and Palmer was another new car, with navigator-turned-driver Louis Weichelt and Johan Smallberger giving the impressive-looking N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser its maiden outing.
There was another boost for the 4x4 Mega World team when Pikkie Labuschagne and Rikus Erasmus set the quickest Class E time in another Toyota Hilux on an event that does not have happy memories for them. In their first full season of national championship racing last year, a technical infringement saw Labuschagne and Erasmus excluded from the results. It cost them the Class C championship, which they eventually lost by a single point to veteran crew Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux.
The team Ford pair of rookie Lance Woolridge and the vastly more experienced Ward Huxtable were 35 seconds behind Labuschagne and Erasmus in the Ford Ranger. The pair had already won twice this season and were looking to extend their lead over Labuschagne and Erasmus in the Class E Championship. Chasing after the Ford Ranger was a third 4x4 Mega World crew in Hein Moorman and J.D. Wolfhard in another Toyota Hilux entry.
Back at DSP, we spoke to some of the competitors.
Yeah, it's an excellent result for the Cashel Toyota team. It's what we've been looking for all year, and finally it's come to the party at the Carnival City race, and I think we're going to be in for quite a good shot. We have made a couple of changes to the car. It's made it a lot better to drive, handles the bumps a lot better, so let's just hope that if no one bumps into us this weekend and we have good reliability, we're going to probably take a 1-2. Let's hope so.
It's a bit unexpected, I must be honest. I thought we had a bit of a problem with the back of the car. The car was washing away a little bit, but I think it was just me being pedantic. Look, yeah, we've had a good result. We've come third in class, and yeah, that's good for us.
Ja, dit is 'n heel ander mindset en alles gebeur soveel vinniger. Ek en Rian het nou die dag daaroor gepraat. Jy weet, jy moet regtig op die bol wees en jy weet as in klas E het jy nog tyd gehad om 'n fout reg te maak. In SP as jy 'n fout maak, ry jy iets stuk en so jy moet regtig skerp wees en eerder 90% ry, anders gaan jy die bakkie stuk kry.
If you look at the results today, I think the Super D is going to become a very nice class. It's going to be a competitive class, I think. It's slowly going to grow, but I think eventually it's going to get to a big class that's going to have a lot of entrants in it.
Dit was lekker geweest. Hy's 'n bietjie vinnig vir ons. Daar's lang reguitstukke wat ons voertuig nie heeltemal op die spoed kan kom wat ons wil kom nie. Maar in die tyd is ons redelik vinnig en hy was rof geweest, maar dit was baie lekker.
In the special vehicle category, Shamir Varayawa and Siegfried Rousseau enjoyed an 18-point advantage over Class B crew Johan van Staden and James Rousseau. Two other Class B crews also featured in the top 10 in the overall standings.
Big news in the special vehicle category was a maiden outing for former rally champion Etienne Lodens, who was out in an Atlas Copco bat.
Yeah, completely new, and I was ecstatic about it, you know, when Andre put it together with Gary Berthold for me to drive the vehicle. I had to get some sponsors together, as you can see, all new sponsors for this event. So one off for now, and then we'll see how things go from here, and I'm looking forward to it. And did some 85 Ks of testing. I couldn't believe where this thing can actually go and at what speed and over the rough stuff. So yeah, it was very exciting.
Botswana driver Keith Du Toit has Lesotho-based veteran Ashley Thorne sitting alongside him in a bat, with the pair linking up with brand new sponsors.
Well, we're going to try our best. We've got new sponsors on board, White Star, the Bokomo brand, and we're quite fortunate to get them on board for this race and for the desert race and for the rest of the year. So we're going to try our best.
Former special vehicle champions Cully and Quinton Silwald gave new sponsors Elegant Fuel a win first time out on the recent Sun City 400, and the Palabowa-based father and son team were hoping for more of the same.
Yes, yeah, obviously we are blessed with a little bit of good luck and some form lately, so yeah, we're trying to keep it together this race, and hopefully the good form will spill over into this race.
Forged out of necessity, perfected by hostility. There was nothing and no one that could stop us. We were champions, and it was all just to bring us here.
South Africa sets the stage for the world's 10 best 2020 teams to discover which champion is the greatest of them all. Airtel Champions League 2020. I like it. Live and exclusive on your World of Champions. I don't believe it. Is it really true? I don't believe it. believe it too. I don't believe it. Is it really true? 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 I don't believe this thing, yeah.
There's only one place to see the Super Eagles kick off their AFCON qualifiers. Tune in to Super Sports to watch Nigeria take on Madagascar on the 5th of September, live. In Africa's richest tournament, there will be moments worth 8 million rands. Great football! With the most extensive and superior coverage, we've got every moment covered. It's knockout football at its best. Whoa, Zuzobona! The MTN 8 Wafa Wafa. We love it. It's Super Diski on Super Sport.
The Donaldson Prologue to determine start positions is an integral part of off-road racing, with the company joining the ABSA family at the start of the 2010 season.
I think just the brand image is excellent for us. It's the right application for our product. It's the right brand exposure. We're dealing with the people in the right industries. And, you know, it's a family event. It's great to see all the people out here. Just look around. Yes, there's other brands, but there's people, there's families, there's involvement in the sport, and that's what we really want. We just want to be exposed to that involvement in a sport that's really doing well for the whole fraternity.
The Donaldson Jumping Castle is a popular diversion for the younger generation and keeps the kids amused for hours on end. While the young kids are playing, the older kids go racing, with the top 5 seeded teams in the special vehicle category also going into the hat to determine start positions. The special vehicle and production vehicle categories alternate who goes first, and on a compact event like the 4x4 Mega World 400, a good start position is a major advantage. Former champions Cully and Quinton Silwald drew the number 3 slot. Class P championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau would go second, and there was ironic cheers when Atlas Copco Bat veteran Nick Harper and Kevin Hume drew number 1 on the road.
Warm late winter's day conditions on a flat stretch of water was perfect for a family swim, while on dry land, Donaldson Prologue specialists Colin Matthews and Alan Smith scorched to the fastest time among the special vehicles. In a shake-up in the Century Racing team, Matthews and Smith were out for the first time in the Century Racing CR3, previously campaigned in Class P by Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar. Just over a minute behind the Century Racing car were Bevan Bertolt and Donnie Stassen in the new Lab 88 Bat. Bertolt is a flat-out racer and was being chased by reigning drivers champion Evan Hutchison and an off-road motorcycle champion Daryl Curtis in the Motorite Bat. Curtis has taken over co-driver duties from Achim Bergman and was joined at Carnival City by another off-road bike star in Spencer Creel, co-driving for KZN driver Lance Trethui.
Fourth place went to Herman and Vichard Zurwald in the Zurwald Racing SVR. They lost time when they sportingly stopped to try and help championship leaders Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau out of a donga. The gesture won them a Good Sportsmanship Award, with the father and son team chased home by KZN team Clint Gibson and Gary Campbell in another of the SVR cars built by Variawa. Another father and son crew in Nardis and Louis Alberts were 6th fastest in the Rapsa Bat and were just 4 seconds quicker than yet another father and son combination in Cully and Quinton Silwald in the Elegant Fuel Bat.
The Silwarts won the South African Championship in 2008 with their 09 campaign interrupted by Quinton having to write university exams. After a shaky start to this season, the pair bounced back into form with a victory on the recent Sun City 400. They couldn't settle into a rhythm though on the prologue and were disappointed with 7th place.
After a strong podium finish on the Sun City 400, the Swaziland pairing of John Thompson and Clinton McNamara continued their good form by setting the fastest time in Class P in a Zarko Magnum. In a tight finish, the Swaziland crew were just 4 seconds ahead of Archie Rutherford and debutant Jacques Leroux in the Regent Racing Jimco.
Hot on the heels of the Jimco were Louis and Yolinda Fourie in one of the early back models. The pair was also putting in a strong showing at Sun City, and with championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau delayed by an early puncture, third place went to rally driver Etienne Lawrence and Philip Hurselman in the first of the Atlas Copco cars. It was an impressive debut by Lawrence, while behind the Class P brigade, the Class B honours went to Simon Beckett and Steve Harris, who ran into a late gearbox problem in the Century Racing Bat. Back at race headquarters, the pair frantically raced around Brackband spares outlets looking for a replacement part before stores shut up shop for the next day.
With OR Tambo Airport just up the road from Carnival City, the skies are busy. It was also busy down on the ground, with former Blue Bull scrum half Kutsia Labuskaghni and daughter Sandra setting the second quickest time in Class B in the Race Sonic Zarko. Labuskaghni and lifelong friend and business partner Johan Gerber were production vehicle stalwarts for years, with the former Blue Bull now concentrating on competing in the special vehicle category in a car prepared by veteran former champion Gil Nel. Behind the Labuskaghni's, third place went to veteran Bez Besadenhout and daughter-in-law Lindy, who are joint Class B championship leaders in the Adenko Bat. Colin Matthews was happy to share some thoughts with us.
The route was great. It was very technical. You had a lot of in, left, out, right, lots of tricky stuff to catch you out. So you had to be awake, but it's a lovely route. Audrey Ritz is always out here putting out awesome technical challenging routes.
Race day features an early start for competitors, officials and off-road enthusiasts, with the Donaldson Prologue treating some crews like Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer just a little on the unfriendly side.
Yeah, unfortunately yesterday we broke a part in the gearbox, which is a very uncommon part. Everyone runs the same gearboxes, but we're the first one ever to break it. I think it's probably because of all the torque that the Ranger's got. The diesel's pushing out a huge amount of torque, so maybe that's a part we need to change more regularly. Fortunately we had a spare part, so it's not a major issue from that point of view, but from a starting position and race point today, it's a real problem, because we start in the mass start, half an hour behind everybody else, and I don't know, 50, 60, 70 competitors in front of us, so it's not so much the competitors, it's the dust, so we got a long day ahead of us.
Enthusiasts were streaming into Carnival City for the only race in the ABSA off-road calendar that is Gauteng-based. Although competitors have to deal with increasing tension as the start approaches, there was a festive air among spectators looking forward to a great day's entertainment.
Gone are the days when competitors set off at 2-minute intervals known as dust gaps, and these days cars start according to their Donaldson Prologue times. Colin Matthews and Alan Smith know only one way to race, and that's flat out from the word go. The pair are always spectacular to watch and set off just 15 seconds ahead of Duncan Foss and Rob Howie in the first of the production vehicles.
The two factory Castrol Toyota Hilux crews were looking for a first win of the season for the team, with Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton setting off second among the production vehicles. Behind them, Bevan Berthold comes from a racing family and is another driver who has an aggressive take-no-prisoners approach to his racing. Next off the line was Evan Hutchison, a former quad racer who nowadays also goes national championship rallying, and the reigning champion was looking to get his championship challenge back on track.
The first loop of the 4x4 Mega World 400 was a tight 26-kilometer section bordered on the one side by the R23 road to Heidelberg.
With a clear road ahead of them and no dust to worry about, Colin Matthews and Alan Smith were in the box seats in the Century Racing CR3. One of the quickest crews around, the Century Racing pair have been plagued in the past by reliability problems and were hoping to get a monkey off their backs. Reigning production vehicle drivers champion Duncan Foss and Rob Howie were giving chase in the first of the Castrol Toyota Hilux entries, with the team desperate to pick up its first win of the season.
Foss and Howie went into the race lying second in the championship and needed a good result to put pressure on series leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst. The first of the factory Castrol Toyota Hilux entries is being chased by Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton, who also needed a good result to boost a season in stop-start mode from the opening round of the championship in the Western Cape. The careers of Foss and Taylor have followed similar paths, with both winning SA single-seater championships and tasting success in both touring car and production car championships. Bevan Berthold is a former Toyota factory driver and, along with Dani Stassen in the Lab 88 Bat, was still in second among the special vehicles. Berthold's father Bodo is the oldest active driver in the APSA Off-Road Championship, and brother Gary heads up the Atlas Copco team. The first priority for Berthold and Stassen was to keep at bay reigning champion Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis in the Motorride Bat.
A strong podium finish on the Sun City 400 saw Baden Tyre Services pair Thomas Rundle and former SA champion Juan Moore finally produce the form expected of them in the X-Force Championship winning Nissan Navara. They were about to come under pressure from Herman and Wichard Zulwald, who were at the front of a little train of cars with dust starting to become something of a problem. Championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst were still fourth among the production vehicles, and tucked in behind them were KZN pair Clint Gibson and Gary Campbell, the always spectacular Nardis Alberts with son Louis alongside him in the Rapsa Bat. At the back of the train, Cully and Quinton Sulwald in the Elegant Fuel Bat had their sights set on finding a way past the Rapsa car.
A good Donaldson prologue saw brothers-in-law Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson starting fifth among the production vehicles. The pair have the best reliability record of any crew in either the production or special vehicle categories, and were chuffed at being ahead of brother-in-law Terence Marsh and his co-driver Bucks Carolyn. There's a friendly rivalry between the two crews, with Marsh and Carolyn earning bragging rights by winning the Sun City 400.
The Sun City 400 proved to be a nightmare for the Rustenburg-based father and son team of Willem and Dana Vos. A coming together with a sizable rock saw them crash in a big way, but they also came up with an encouraging performance in the prologue and were making good progress in the Vossies Toyota Hilux. Punctures probably cost crews more time on off-road races than any other mishap, and on more than one occasion have cost teams a race win. For the Vossies, a promising start to the day came to a temporary halt when the Toyota picked up a puncture that was going to cost them a couple of minutes.
There was also a reasonable start to the day for Bloemfontein-based George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota Hilux. They were at the front of a group of cars that included the diesel BMW of Hannes Grobler and Hemi ter Steege, and Polokwane pair Naeem Mossaji and Rayon Bodhanya in the Maxis Tyrak Porto that used to belong to Naeem's Uncle Sam. There were sections of the route where dust was now a major problem, and visibility was so poor that Grobler and ter Steege slowed to a crawl and stalled the car.
When they again had steerage, Grobler and ter Steege were faced with a wall of dust. Following the route was almost impossible. Discretion was the better part of valor, and first Musaji and Bodhanya, and then the Rubicon Racing Ford Ranger of Lodebrain and Rian Greiling stormed past the BMW. As the Rubicon car disappeared into the distance, it left behind a plume of thick dust.
Another Free State crew in Peter Ruthven and Rudy Brits in the Rubicon Toyota Hilux had also made a steady start to the day. They were headed for a dusty part of the route, and following in their wake were Nick Harper and Kevin Hume in the Atlas Copco Bat. Hume is a member of the Atlas Copco technical team and was pressed into co-driving duties at Sun City when Ryan Harper injured his shoulder in an off-road motorcycle accident. Harper's injury had not yet healed, with Hume again swapping spanners for a road book. Behind the Atlas Copco car, Lonstra 3 and Spencer Krill had Class P leaders John Thompson and Clinton McNamara right on their tail. Archie Rutherford and Jacques Leroux were also in the mix, with Terence Marsh and Bucks Carolyn bringing up the rear of a little gaggle of cars in the Regent Racing Nissan Navara.
Both Marsh and Carolyn are former South African champions, and after a shaky start to the season, hit back with a win on the Sun City 400. They were caught in the dust behind Regent Racing teammates Rutherford and Leroux, and in these conditions, overtaking was a maneuver fraught with danger.
Class D was led by the 4x4 Megaworld Toyota of Dion Venter and Ian Palmer, but for early race leaders Colin Matthews and Alan Smith, the reliability bogey had struck once again.
We had about a minute and a half lead.
and just 10 k's back the fuel pumps let go.
Brothers Keith and Andrew Makanetti were looking for their first finish of the season in Class B and sailed past the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux of Pikila Beskachny and Rikus Erasmus, which had the early lead in Class E, with both cars heading towards a dust storm.
They say it's the world's most grueling sport. So we thought we'd make it a little easier for you.
Join us each week as we bring you up-to-the-minute news on current events.
This is going to be a superb
Tips from the pros and review the latest technology to keep you ahead of the pack. Watch Super Cycling every Tuesday and enjoy the journey without the pain. Only on Supersport and brought to you by NetScheme and MTN.
Everybody wants to be a superstar, and almost everybody thinks they can.
Shut your mouth, open your heart, baby, satisfies me.
My job's in danger. More cities, new faces, and special appearances.
Maybe this year we'll have 3 winners.
2010's SA Idol gets the biggest prize to date, the beautiful noise that is Idols. Sundays at 5:30 with the results show Tuesdays at 7 on Mnet.
Idols, brought to you by Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This September on your World of Champions, Europe's giants try to outmuscle each other in the UEFA Champions League. Catch all the action in the final leg of the Vodacom Tri-Nations and see the game's biggest hitters in the Champions League 2020. In September, UEFA Champions League, Vodacom Tri-Nations, Champions League 2020, Barclays Premier League, ABSA Premiership and Formula One. In October, the Americans will look to defend their Ryder Cup title away from home. Team SA aim for gold at the Commonwealth Games in India. And can the Vodacom Bulls repeat history in the ABSA Currie Cup? In October, Ryder Cup, Commonwealth Games and the ABSA Currie Cup final. In November, can the Springboks complete their first Grand Slam in 50 years? It's more than a game when the Soweto Giants clash in the ABSA Premiership. And Australia will hope for a good start to the Ashes on home soil. In November, the Vodacom Outgoing Tour, Pirates vs Chiefs and the Ashes on Supersport.
Competitors had to complete 2 loops of a 175-kilometer course, and the lead cars were now heading for the halfway mark in Loop 1. A tight and twisty route headed towards Nigel before doubling back to Carnival City.
The 4x4 Mega World 400 was a spectator-friendly event with no fewer than 19 spectator viewing points along the route. Karting enthusiasts took advantage of having an event on their own doorstep and turned out in their droves. ABSA also took the opportunity to entertain customers and clients at the ABSA VIP facility, where guests could tuck into a good meal and catch all the action. And action there was at the front of the field, with the 2 factory Castrol Toyota Hilux entries leading the production vehicle category. Reigning SA Drivers Champion Duncan Force and Rob Howie started 33 seconds ahead of teammates Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton, who had closed to within a couple of seconds of their sister car.
There are no team orders in the Castrol Toyota squad, and Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were pulling out all the stops to try and catch and pass Duncan Foss and Rob Howie. It was a high-speed chase across unfriendly terrain, with 2 highly quality crews throwing everything they had into a very big battle.
Had he been on the spot to watch his 2 star crews go at each other with a fierce intensity, Castrol Toyota team principal Glenn Hall might have been a tad apprehensive. Teammates have been known to take each other out in red mist situations, and there were times when the 2 Castrol Toyotas were racing almost side by side.
Gripping stuff, but behind the 2 warring Toyotas, another race was going on, with Evan Hutchison and Darryl Curtis leading the special vehicle category after the demise of Colin Matthews and Alan Smith in their Century Racing car. The motorbike crew were looking comfortable, but there were menacing signs that Herman and Wichert Sulwat were starting to mount a stern challenge in the Sulwat Racing SVR. Between the Sun City race and Carnival City, the Silwalt car had undergone suspension modifications, with the crew delighted with the changes. Behind the Silwalts, the Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara of Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore were still third among the production vehicles, but the crew was starting to cast anxious glances at temperature and oil pressure gauges. Collie and Quinton Silwalt were on the tail of the Baden Nissan and had made up 4 places in a charge right through the field. The Silwalts had moved ahead of Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst, as well as the Rapsabat of Nardis and Louis Alberts.
The flamboyant Jimmy Zahos finished the Sun City 400 on his own after ditching his co-driver at the halfway stage and was reunited with regular navigator Stefan Pizzio. The pair had also made up places in the Cobalt Racing Porter, with an interesting duel also developing between the Regent Racing Nissan Navara of Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson and George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota Hilux. Barkhuizen and van Wyk started a few places behind the Regent Racing Navara, but had made good progress. Barkhuizen last year raced with wife Sharon, and an interesting item on his CV is that he played underwater hockey for the Free State. Tagged onto the tail of this little train of cars were Nick Harper, one of a number of off-road racer with Comrades Marathon experience, and Kevin Hume in the Atlas Copco Bat, who had also made up places.
After their earlier problems and thick dust, the RFS BMW pair of Hannes Grobler and Henny Terstegen were clawing their way back through the field. They picked up another place when they went past the Lab 88 Bat of Bevan Bertolt and Donnie Stassen, who were having trouble with a throttle cable that kept on jamming. The ebullient Grobler is one of South African motorsport's Mr. Nice Guys, and in Terstegen he's linked up with one of the most experienced co-drivers in the country. The diesel BMW had so far not missed a beat, with Grobler and Terstegen now handily placed to snatch a podium finish. Bertolt and Stassen were mobile again, but after finishing second on the Donaldson prologue, they gradually slipped out of contention.
In only their second outing in the ex-Musaji Jimco, brothers Brett and Steve Parker were putting together another solid performance. There was also a solid showing from Lode Brain and Rian Geiling in the Rubicon Ford Ranger, with KZN driver Lance Truthui and off-road motorcycle star Spencer Creel also a part of the midfield battles that had developed. The morning had also taken a turn for the better for veteran Archie Rutherford and debutant Jacques Leroux, who had moved into the Class P lead in the Regent Racing Jimco and were cruising along nicely.
Sun City 400 winners Terence Marsh and Bucks Carolyn were battling to find rhythm and had not made much progress up the production vehicle ladder. Behind the Regent Racing entry, rally driver Etienne Lawrence and Philip Herselman had made up a place or two in the Atlas Copco Bat and were running second in Class P. Crews were getting plenty of support from enthusiasts at spectator points who were enjoying a warm late winter's day with hardly a cloud in the sky. Willem and Dana Vos were being closed down by the RFS Toyota Hilux of Christian de Plooy and Henk Janssen van Vieren, with the Rustenburg crew politely moving over to let the Pretoria lads come through.
The new N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser in the hands of Louis Weichelt and Johan Smallberger had moved into the lead in Class D. At this stage of the race, matters looked good for Weichelt and Smallberger, but their day was to later turn sour. The Land Cruiser was running just ahead of Class B leaders Simon Beckett and Steve Harris. The Century Racing pair have also had reliability problems and were looking for their first finish of the season. Beckett and Harris had over a minute on Kunsia and Sandra Labuskachny in the Racesonic Zarko, who were being chased by Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer in the 4x4 Megaworld Toyota Hilux, which slowed to a halt in the complex at the ABSA VIP facility. Next up was the Gibson Racing SVR of KZN crew Clint Gibson and Gary Campbell, who were gradually slipping down the field.
The 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux of Dion Venter and Ian Palmer got going again just ahead of the Gibson Campbell car, which had started the day 5th in the special vehicle category. It had been a disappointing morning for Gibson and Campbell, who have plenty of pace, but who have not yet found the recipe for turning potential into winning races.
The Adenco Bat of Cape Crew Bas Besadenhout and daughter-in-law Lindy was running a solid third in Class B, but was under intense pressure from Class B championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau in the Atlas Copco Bat. Van Staden and Rousseau started well down the pecking order after puncture problems on the prologue and were on a damage control mission that had seen them sky through the field. The ever-steady Pikkie Labuskaghni and Rikus Erasmus were still leading Class E by a comfortable margin in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux and were looking for their second victory of the season.
The race was turning into something of a nightmare for co-drivers, and overshoots were a common occurrence. There were slight mistakes from Class E contenders Hein Woolman and J.D. Wolfart in the third 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux, and Dino Scripanti and Justin Fuchs, who were having a little trouble with the roadbook.
Class E championship leaders Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable had slipped to third in class, but all appeared to be well with the vehicle, with the Ford Ranger running about 13 minutes behind the race leaders.
The final section of Loop 1 back to the designated service point at Carnival City also included some tight and twisty sections, with the dust an ever-present problem for hard-working crews.
On the final run-in to the designated service point at the end of the first loop of the race, Duncan Force and Rob Howie had earned a little breathing space at the front of the production vehicle category. On the special vehicle front, Herman and Richard Sulwald were now leading in the Sulwald SVR, while matters went from bad to worse for Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton in the second Castrol Toyota Hilux, who were cruising along when they picked up a puncture.
When the unfortunate Taylor and Houghton got underway again, a rock thrown up by Collie and Quinton Sulwald shattered the Toyota's windscreen, and a second puncture added insult to injury. There are days when it would have been better to just stay in bed.
Former champions Cully and Quinton Sulwald were following up their Sun City 400 triumph with another solid performance. Herman and Cully won the South African Championship together in the mid-90s, with Herman doing the driving and Cully the navigating. The brothers were now enjoying racing with their sons, with Cully and Quinton winning the South African Championship in 2008. Also racing with his son Louis was Nardus Alberts, but there was a little hiccup in their progress when they went flying down the wrong road.
The Rapsa batch should have followed the Sulwalds over the dam wall, and by the time they realised the mistake and had backtracked, they dropped a place to championship leaders Chris Fissy and Japie Baardenhorst, who are now lying third overall in the production vehicle category. It was a little setback for the Alberts pair, but worse was to follow later on in their day.
Former quad racer Jimmy Zaos is starting to put together some consistent performances in the ex-Gary Berthold Porter. Zaos and Stefan Kutsia were a solid fourth in the special vehicle category, and in another fine performance, experienced driver Archie Rutherford and first-time out navigator Jacques Leroux had taken control of Class B in the Regent Racing Gymco.
The new N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser in the hands of Louis Weichert and Johan Smallberger was still out in front in Class D in what looked to be an impressive debut for the car. The demise of the Simon Beckett-Steve Harris car and engine problems for Kutsia and Sandra Labuskaghni had left Bez and Lindy Besaidnout in charge of Class B in their Adenco Bat. Still out in front in Class E were Pikkie Labuskaghni and Rikus Erasmus in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux.
The combined running order at the service point saw Foss and Howie leading the two Sulwald cars, with Hutchison and Curtis dropping down the order along with Taylor and Houghton. The 15-minute compulsory stop at DSP gave us a chance to hear it from the horse's mouth.
We're still in the lead and pushing on. The route's good, challenging, and we're enjoying ourselves.
We're quite happy. The suspension and things that we've changed for this race is really working well.
The route is quite tough. It's difficult sometimes. Well, I got lost two times. So, but yeah, it's nice. Nice route, difficult and rocky and ditches and everything. Yeah, very nice.
On a tricky little right-hander, clipped a rock and had a front puncture, changed it, got back in, and as we pulled off we realised the back had a slow puncture from the same rock, so back out again, changed the second tyre, and we've been just keeping pace. You know, we had no more spares, we had 50 k's to go, so kept our position. Still got Chris Visser a couple of minutes ahead, but yeah, let's see if we can get him now and get a Toyota 1-2.
Second time navving, and I think nothing can prepare you for the brutality of one of these cars. We're doing well, we're moving up the spots. It's a tough race, so very tough, very dusty, but we're on the pace, so it's good.
Dit is 'n paar stukke wat daar bietjie swart klei is, wat dit nie baie stof is nie. Ons hoop maar as ons by so 'n plek uitkom, jy dis ou naby enige kar wat jy wil verbysteek moet jy maar geduldig wees. Maar dit is lekker, jy weet, dis vinnig en dit is lekker. Alles gaan goed.
We're just 20 k's out, lost power steering. So it's been an uphill battle, but we're still in the lead, I think, and so fix the power steering and take it easy the next route and come home as a winner, hopefully.
Dust is bad. We had a bit of trouble. We went into a hole sideways into the mud. I think we got stuck for about 7 minutes. And fortunately our own teammate came up picky. They gave us a yank out.
This Friday, the Sharks will want to go straight for the kill and get maximum points against an unpredictable Pumas side. The Pumas host the Sharks. It's non-stop power rugby on Supersport. Brought to you by ABSA. Today, tomorrow, together.
The moment of truth has arrived. It's the Sunday Eviction Show coming to you live. Who has not lived up to the All-Star status? Who will live in the limelight another day? And whose star is about to be extinguished? All will be revealed. Catch the Big Brother All-Stars Evictions live every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Central African Time. Plus, don't miss out on special guest performances from some of Africa's greatest stars. Someone's journey is about to end. Find out whose time is up. Big Brother All-Stars, brought to you by Mnet, exclusive to DSTV and DSTV Mobile. Big Brother's rated 18.
The world's greatest league in the splendor of high definition. Experience it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with 180 live matches throughout the season, weekly magazine shows to keep you in the know, and 400 classic matchups from games past. All this and more on one dedicated HD channel. The Barclays Premier League at its best, only on Supersport HD2. World football lives on Supersport, brought to you by MTN, everywhere you go.
You see a stadium. We see a stage. You see success. We see sacrifice. You see humanity pushing itself to its limit. We see it doing what it was born to do. The Commonwealth Games. See it how we do. Commencing the 4th of October with 4 dedicated channels. Nowhere else but Supersport.
With a comfortable lead as they set off on the final loop of the 4x4 Mega World 400, reigning SA champion Duncan Foss and Rob Howie were on course to give the factory Castrol Toyota team its first success of the 2010 season. It would also be a maiden SP class win for Howie and a major boost for a team under pressure to produce a win. But the pair were not yet out of the woods. Just before the service point, the Toyota picked up a misfire after a water splash, but Foss has a knack of making the most of awkward situations. At the front of the special vehicle field, Herman and Vichard Solwart were also worried about an engine misfire when a plug lead worked loose. They had a lead of less than half a minute over Cully and Quinton Solwart, and the battle between brothers and cousins was going to produce a tight finish yet again.
Nardus and Louis Alberts were still third on the road among the special vehicles, but would later be penalised for deviating from the route. That would drop them down the pecking order, with Jimmy Zars and Stefan Kutsia scoring their first podium finish in the Cobalt Racing Porter. A pretty uneventful day at the office saw production vehicle championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst quietly work their way into second place. Added to a pair of wins earlier in the season, that would be enough to keep the pair at the top of the points table.
The penalty imposed on Nardus and Louis Alberts lifted Nick Harper and Kevin Hume into fourth overall in the special vehicle category. It had also been a pretty uneventful day at the office for Harper and Hume, who started the day 10th among the specials. Behind them, more trouble for Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton saw the RFS BMW of Hannes Grobler and Henny Tersteege quietly slip onto a podium finish among the production vehicles. Patience, when the dust factor was at its worst, was the key to their success.
Any hopes Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton had of ending up on the podium in the second of the Team Castrol Toyotas disappeared via another puncture and an overheating problem. The troublesome temperature gauge saw them start short shifting, and it was while changing the wheel after their third puncture that Grobler and Tersteege went past them. It was another disappointing outing for Taylor and Houghton, who have not been able to convert opportunities into race wins. By contrast, brothers Brett and Steve Parker came up with another fine performance to clinch a special vehicle category top 5 finish in the Porter.
There was also a top 5 finish for George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota, who earlier in the day were involved in a terrific dice with Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson in their Regent Racing Nissan Navara. While Whitehouse and Carlson slipped down the order, teammates Terence Marsh and Bucks Carolyn eased their way into 6th with a sort of steady display that is a trademark of former SA Special Vehicle champion Marsh. The steady approach is also starting to produce results for young Pretoria crew Christian de Plooy and Henk Janssen van Vieren in the RFS Toyota Hilux. They ran into a few problems on the Donaldson prologue, but followed up that disappointment with a very solid race.
Workmanlike displays in both the Donaldson prologue and the race took Archie Rutherford and new co-driver Jacques Leroux to victory in Class P. Theirs was a top-class performance, but not so lucky were Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore, who eventually parked the Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara with overheating problems. After a podium finish on the Sun City 400 and an encouraging start to the weekend with third on the prologue, it was a major disappointment for the Baden team. Rundle and Moore wisely decided that an expensive blown motor was not worth the risk of continuing the race.
After a disappointing prologue that saw them start 28th among the special vehicles, the Pretoria pair of Johan van Staden and James Rousseau came up with an impressive fight back in their Atlas Copco bat. It took them into second in Class P and ensured they would stay second in the overall championship to maintain a healthy lead in the class title race. While some local kids took the opportunity for a little showboating, Free State crew Lodebrain and Rian Geiling were putting the finishing touches to another solid performance in the Rubicon Ford Ranger. Rally driver Etienne Lawrence could also be well satisfied with his first off-road outing, with third in Class P in another Atlas Copco entry.
There was also a good finish for Bevan Berthold and Dani Stassen in the new Lab 88 bat. Late in the race, Bez and Lindy Besadenhout politely moved out of the way, but it had not been an easy day for Berthold and Stassen, who were second on the prologue. Their day was full of niggly problems, but they stuck to their guns, and making it to the end was just reward for their endeavours. There was to be no reward for Willem and Dana Vos in the Fossies Toyota Hilux. The pair had put in a solid day's work, but it all came to naught when they were also penalised by race officials for deviating from the route. It ruined the day for the Rustenburg crew and dropped them way down the finish order.
By contrast to the Vos family, it was a good day for the Besadenhout family. Veteran driver Bez and daughter-in-law Lindy wrapped up Class B in the Adenko bat to take the outright lead in the Class B championship. It was compensation for Lindy, whose husband Dion, sharing a car with brother Johan, was forced to retire in Class P. The day also turned sour for Louis Weichelt and Johan Smallberger when they were stripped of the Class D win in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser for a technical infringement. They were joined in officialdom's bad books by Neil Woolridge and Kenny Shorthammer, and a penalty for deviating from the route put the seal on a weekend the veteran Ford crew would rather like to forget.
A broken gearbox on the prologue confined Woolridge and Shorthammer to the mass start, and after spending the day fighting their way through the field, a stiff penalty was the last thing they needed. It was far better day for Botswana driver Keith du Toit and veteran Lesotho co-driver Ashley Thorne, who salvaged another good finish in the White Star Racing bat. Behind them, a classy win for Piki Labuschagne and Rikus Erasmus also erased the memory of last year's event when they were excluded from the results. Another tough day at the office ended with Atlas Copco pair Gary Berthold and Andre Vermeulen salvaging points after they were forced to withdraw from the Donaldson prologue.
It also turned out to be a good day for the 4x4 Mega World squad, with Hein Moorman and JD Wolfhard second in Class E in another Toyota Hilux. Moorman and Wolfhard did teammates Labuschagne and Erasmus a favour by coming in ahead of championship leaders Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable in the Team Ford Ranger. The pair led the championship with a reduced majority, with the 4x4 Mega World and Ford crews now having each won twice this season. It sets up an interesting battle between the two teams in the 3 remaining races in 2010.
After 4 non-finishers on the trot this season, brothers Keith and Andrew Macanetti finally got on the scoreboard. A dogged display saw the Zarco crew finish second in Class B behind Bez and Lindy Besadenhout. The Macanettis were not the only ones to break their duck this season. Nick Gosler and veteran co-driver Richard Carolyn also picked up their first points of the season in the Men's Health International Zarco.
The pair finished with a flourish, and it was a pity that only a lone cameraman was on hand to record the action. Of such moments, history is made.
Back at Carnival City, the Castrol Toyota team of Duncan Voss and Rob Howie put the finishing touches to a much-needed win for the squad. Only seconds behind the Toyota were Herman and Richard Zulwald, who finished just 24 seconds ahead of Cully and Quinton Zulwald in the special vehicle category. There were smiles and congratulations all round, with Howie and Richard Zulwald scoring their first major national victories. The retirement of championship leaders Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau also throws the special vehicle championship wide open.
Championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst were second across the finish line in the production vehicle category, with invited Hannes Grobler and Henny Terstege giving the RFS BMW its first ever podium finish in only its 3rd outing.
Toyota, BMW, Ford and Nissan all featured in the top 10 in the overall results. A fine performance from Piki Labuschagne and Rikus Erasmus also took the Class C crew into the top 10.
With 3 tired but happy teams on the podium and the adrenaline still pumping, there was plenty of champagne flowing around as crews celebrated in the traditional motorsport manner.
We've been with Toyota now since the beginning of this year, and the hard work and the dedication of the team is starting to pay off, and we're back. The pace is there, and today you saw by the result we got. So it's nice to be competitive and to know that we're in a position to win the race, every race that we compete in.
A unique double for the Zulwald family, with only 24 seconds separating the 2 father and son teams. 3 Class B teams also made it into the top 10.
There was a special ABSA Team of the Event award to race winners Herman and Richard Zulwald, with a cheque of 5,000 Rand donated by ABSA going to the charity of their choice.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank APSA for the initiative that they took. I think it's great for the sport and for people not close to races. Us based in Palabora, we've got a school for mentally disabled kids, and it's a battle in a small town, and it's a privilege for us to be nominated for the award, as well as to be able to give back something to kids in Palabora.
Next up in the APSA Off-Road Championship, the Toyota 1000 Kalahari Botswana Desert Race from the 24th to the 26th of September.
Catch all the action right here on Supersport, your world of champions.